People don't just vanish into thin air, but what if there's an exception?
28-year-old Brenda Condon disappeared in 1991 from Spring Township.
Weeks pass, months, then a year. Now, it's been 28 years. Family and friends still wondering if she's ever coming back.
Brenda leaving, running off. There's no way.
Or if something else might have happened.
The unknown is the most difficult part.
How would you deal with it?
I've tried to be there as much as I can for them. You can't replace their mother.
It's changed our lives in ways that many couldn't even imagine. We just need to know.
If you were to ask Shauna or Condon what they most wanted to know in this world, they would ask you what happened to their mother.
The last time I actually saw my mother would have been the 2 weeks previous for a visitation.
After the divorce, Brenda had moved from Clearfield to Williamsport. Her children, aged 10 and 12, stayed behind with their father so they could stay in school with their friends. Brenda Condon's son, who wishes to remain anonymous, has fond memories of his parents growing up.
My mom and dad had a really, really good relationship even after the separation. She could come see us anytime, come get us anytime.
There was no doubt in anyone's mind that Brenda's 2 kids came first. But the distance was too far to visit as much as she wanted to. So she moved in with her boyfriend of 2 years, Greg Palazzari, to be closer to her children.
And he had the apartment or the house in a nice area in State College.
But she was about to see them for the last time.
This is where Brenda Condon worked. The bar was then known as Carlsbad Tavern.
Central PA, winter of 1991. The roads were rough, icy, and slippery. You could feel the sting of the cold from the snowstorm that blew through a few weeks earlier. 2 weeks earlier, Brenda had gotten a job as a part-time bartender for Carlsbad Tavern. And to commute there from State College safely and on time for her evening shift, she'd have to leave early. Information gathered about Brenda's last steps have produced nothing if not normal behavior. In an interview with the Daily Collegian, Greg Palazzari said she was her normal, chipper self before she left for work. He said they made plans to celebrate her birthday, coming up in 2 days over a fancy dinner, before picking up her kids on the 2nd.
She was last seen alive talking to an unidentified man. She was supposed to lock up and go home, but she never made it.
Most of the tavern's patrons were regulars who came in for an after-work drink. But given the location, right off the Zion exit on an interstate highway, the bar also attracted weary travelers looking for a break from the road.
So you have some probably unseedy characters, that frequent that bar.
People who came in during Brenda's shift say it was slow that night. Being a Tuesday in the dead of winter, all but 3 people there that night have been accounted for by police. The first unknown patron, a tall man in his early 40s, wearing a bright blue down jacket, had jeans and a side part. The second was under 6 feet and in his late 50s. He was wearing a short, dark jacket, work slacks, and a plaid brown shirt, with thinning hair on the sides of his head. And the third, a younger man about average height in his mid-20s to early 30s, wearing a black leather jacket, a white button-down shirt, and jeans. His hair was thick and dark. People who were at the bar until last call saw Brenda talking to one of these men around 1 a.m. But nothing about the conversation seemed suspicious, and friends say that striking up conversations with strangers wasn't unusual for her. Brenda was outgoing, approachable, all the things that make a great bartender, but
She wasn't gullible, and things, just very friendly.
did Brenda become too trusting and find herself alone with someone who took advantage of her hospitality? Evidence from the scene accounts for Brenda, up to the point where she'd shut the lights off and was ready to lock up. Sometime after hitting the light switch and before killing the music, something happened. Gone were her keys and purse, but her car was still in the lot. And whoever it was seemingly snatched her right out of her black cowboy boots. Boots police say were strategically placed in the men's bathroom. Brenda was scheduled to be back at work by 10 o'clock the next morning. But a cigarette vendor who came by during that time later recalled seeing no one there while he replaced the machines. Thinking nothing of it, he didn't say anything. Brenda's disappearance wasn't officially reported until the evening of February 27th, a full 17 hours after police believed she went missing. And it took another 3 days for police to start their search. Brenda was scheduled to pick her kids up for visitation on March 2nd, a date her family says she wouldn't have missed for the world. So they waited until then to be sure she was truly missing and endangered.
Maybe she just decided she needed to clear her head. So they didn't tell us anything.
But as Brenda's children stood outside their father's house waiting,
Watching cars back, down the road, just expecting her to come because she always had shown up previously.
the reality of the situation grew more dim.
And she didn't show up. And finally they pulled us together and said, listen, we have something that we need to tell you.
The first week of the investigation was full of hope. Police took dogs, rescue groups, and helicopters, searching every square inch of the area around Carlsbad Tavern, but nothing came up.
There's just nothing there for them to go off of. There's very, very minuscule amounts of evidence.
The possibilities of finding her alive became dimmer as time went by.
I mean, we can get out of the way right now that she was a victim of foul play.
Unfortunately, given the circumstances, that may be the case, but until we do develop the physical evidence to confirm that, we still have to classify it as a missing person case.
With what few clues they had, it sounded very suspicious to me.
But her family continues to stay positive.
You know, without a body or something, you still always are going to have that little speck of hope that she is out there somewhere.
There's always still that little twinge of hope because there is no real evidence to support anything other than she's not here.
On the 10th anniversary of Condon's disappearance in 2001, police held a press conference with the family about the case, opening up about their lack of leads, the unidentified patrons at the bar, and the choice to put her case on a national database system for missing people. They also mentioned reluctance of some of Brenda's acquaintances to cooperate, but they didn't elaborate.
Up until now, we have a lot of speculation that we haven't been able to confirm. We do have some leads that I'm not at liberty to discuss at this point in time.
Over the years, theories started to rise about the reputation of Carlsbad Tavern, which closed shortly after Brenda disappeared.
It was certainly a place where shady people could hang out.
As well as the possibility of Brenda's ex-husband Thomas having something to do with her disappearance.
My brother was helping me move that day, so we were both surprised when we found out she was missing.
But none of them panned out, and her ex-husband was cleared by police soon after the incident. In 2014, Greg Palazzari was arrested for harboring a major cocaine operation at his gas station, Greg Sunoco in State College.
I've asked Greg that multiple times if that was the reason why she disappeared, and he couldn't tell me no.
Police believe Greg was selling coke for years.
I would have to say he's probably somewhat responsible, and not in a direct line, but he owed a lot of people a lot of money.
And made around $50,000 a month. Given the newfound information, some people believe Brenda could have been a victim of a bad drug deal, including Nancy Jones, a woman Greg dated soon after Brenda disappeared. She feels the guilt he had over her disappearance could mean he knew more than he was willing to tell anyone.
I used to have to wake him up in the middle of the night because he would be having nightmares about her missing.
But officials say that's not always the case.
It's not uncommon for people to say that they feel responsible or guilty for a loved one's disappearance.
And police have found no connections to date. 2020 is the first year Brenda's been missing for longer than she was last seen alive, and it's going to be hard on everyone.
She was definitely free-spirited, fun-loving.
She was always thoughtful, kind, generous, would help anybody. She and I were also great friends.
The holidays just haven't been the same without Brenda's well-sought-after desserts, loving spirit, and thoughtful gifts.
It's been a lot of years, a lot of trying years.
Christmas was always a big holiday with our family.
In Pamela, one of her best friends is missing her shopping partner.
We loved to shop.
Brenda left behind 2 young children who had to grow up in a world of hurt, the agony of the unknown.
You never forget. You never ever forget. But you have to move forward.
And now their children are going through their own childhood, never knowing who their grandmother was.
The kids deserve some resolution, some kind of an answer. They've been deprived of a lot.
If it was your mother, you know, you would want to know.